So, do you remember President Faust talking about an Armenian earthquake? It was an 8.2 earthquake and massive destruction. And it buried a school as one of the things that collapsed, a cement school. And the father ran over to the site and then figured out where his son's room would have been and proceeded to try to move huge concrete blocks off the pile and dig through to try to find his son. After 12 hours, he had had 5 different people come by, pick him up, lift him off the site, and say, they couldn't have lived through this. You need to go home and take care of your family. He would always say the same thing. Are you going to help me now? They would leave and he would get busy digging. He dug through the rubble for 24 hours straight, and then 30 hours, 32 hours, 36 hours into the ordeal without stopping. In this true story, he pulled off a huge chunk of concrete, and there was a space there. He called inside, and his little boy called back. He said, Armand, tell me what's happened. He said, Dad, 2 of the walls fell together, and there's a space there, and there are 13 of us in this space. And I kept telling him, don't you worry. My dad will come. At that point, he reached in and said, come out, son. He said, no, Dad. Let me help my friends out first. He crawled back into this dark, frightening place and quietly helped his friends up one by one until all 12 had been helped out, and then crawled out of the hole into his father's arms. As President Faust told that story in conference, and we thought about that moment, and then thought about all of you in a place like this. You happen to come to this wonderful mortal experience during a time that is darkening. It is darkening more the closer we get to his coming. But the darker it gets, the brighter your light will shine. And in the midst of all of that effort we're making, here are those that are gathering diligently, digging through the dark to find these children. If we could see the joy for every name, if we could sense clearly the result of every one of those coming out of the dark into that embrace, if we could sense what's really happening, we would be able to begin to express our gratitude for all of you who do so much. Because I know that's the feeling on the other side when they receive this wonderful gift. And right now, as part of this work, there's been a major shift. Most of you know that a year and a half, 2 years ago, the emphasis of the church was called Find, Take, and Teach. 2 years ago at ReachTech, the general authorities announced, thank you, that we would have a different way of summarizing our work. It was called Discover, Gather, and Connect. Now, the difference between the two is significant because it is also brought about a major change in what's happening on some of the major sites, but especially Family Search. Family Search has emphasized dramatically a different part of the work to try to help us not just find a name, but to do what? Discover everything we can about that name, gather everything we can about that so that others can discover too, and then deeply personally connect with them. Connect not just a name, but connect with them, with their lives, with their histories, with who they are, and to have a chance to really understand the legacy that they passed on to us and relate to that and connect to it and then utilize it. So, these are some of the tools. This by the way, is an interesting study. And do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, sure. So many of you may have heard about this study, but what happened is this research came out of Emory University that said that the more that children knew about their family history, all of these wonderful things happened to them. They were more self-confident. They had more feelings of self-worth that were greater, a sense of identity and belonging, and their ability to handle stress was better. So they did a survey. They asked kids questions like, do you know where your grandma grew up? Do you know where your parents met? Where they went to school? Things like that, pretty basic. But a lot of these children didn't know those things. So they said the important part of teaching children and grandchildren about their heritage is not just the facts, but the point is the process is what really counts and changes children's lives. So the process of having a family narrative where you're always talking and telling stories and sharing that rich heritage that they have so that they know. So let's look at a way that one family, our family, decided to use some tools that Family Search has to find out more about their great-grandparents. She'll cook it again. You turn it up. I don't know. Hopefully.
Too much touch. Aren't they the cutest kids?
So, this is what they do, right? Look at me. So welcome. So it's really interesting that when we decided we wanted to make this a movie, I thought it would be really fun for our grandkids to learn more about their great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents. But then, right before we decided to film and the videographer got there, I thought, no, we really need to do their great-grandparents because they were both still alive and they knew about them and they interviewed them and they could talk about it. So it's really fascinating that we made this little change because when we were filming, we got a call from the hospital and my dad, who had been healthy that morning, He'd been suffering with a few different things, but that morning he was shopping, he was late, that he'd been taken to the hospital in an emergency situation. So my husband and I left, went up to the hospital, and not long after that, we made a little call to these sweet great-grandkids in our home to let them know that my dad was not going to make it. And they had just filmed about him and his wife, and it was so fresh for them that this was so tender to their hearts. And they knelt down and prayed. And they walked over to the timeline sitting on the table, and our little grandson Derek wrote in that Grandpa Rule had passed away, and he wrote that date. So what a fascinating, fun, wonderful experience for them to get to know their great-grandparents more by using these wonderful tools that Family Search has made available. So I know you're probably all familiar with the new fan chart. It goes back 7 generations now. Makes us to make discoveries. You all know about this? Yeah? Okay. It is such a fun thing to share with others because a lot of people don't know about how easy it is to see your birth country. This is my fan chart, and you can see that I'm a lot Danish. I'm kind of stubborn like I hear they are. Right? My husband will attest to that.
Not true, not true.
But I'm grateful for that courage. It's so fun just to see it graphically, and then you've got sources and stories and photos and research notes and ordinances all right at your fingertips, just by clicking on that person. Pretty fascinating, huh? So I just love how Family Search just keeps coming up with these amazing ways to help us learn about our ancestors and help our kids and our grandkids. My mom was kind of frustrated about a story that one of her ancestors that she just couldn't put into a story. Like all the stories about her great-grandfather didn't really tell about this one wife that he had, just that she was a wife. And she could not figure out because there were no stories specifically about her until we went to the timeline, which is fairly new also. And there she just looked at his, the records of what happened to him in his life, and she found his wife. And the reason she wasn't talked about much is because she was his wife for 1 year, and she was expecting a baby, and then they both died in childbirth. But all of a sudden, it all made sense to her, and it was just so easily spelled out. We've had a lot of fun with Google Maps and using this timeline and the maps that are on here, and then using Google Maps to zero in and find out more about places and just ancestor countries. One time we were sitting around doing this with our children and grandchildren, and our son, who had served a mission in Korea, got on Google Street Map and Google Street View and zeroed in right to Korea where his apartment was, and then all of a sudden he said, "That's my bike!" And it was his mission bike. And when that video had been taken, it was his bike right by his apartment, so that was kind of fun. Anyway, it's a great tool too. There are so many ways to find out more about your ancestors. So raise your hand if you have explored all the new Family Search Activities section. Anybody? Oh, this is so much fun. So much fun. And such a great way to get children and grandchildren interested in family history and to help them learn more. So, for example, it's not showing. You got it? Okay, so for example, when you go to the activities, which it comes up, if you haven't signed in to Family Search, it's the whole front page right now. And if you sign in, and it's a little blue square, and it just says check these out. So you go to the activities, and there's a whole section on in-home activities, and some of them are highlighted on that page. Can you find it? For those of you that are looking. It is so great. So there's 36 activities, and all of them have an initial section that is without internet. And the reason is that the creators of this site on Family Search went around the world to remote places where they don't have internet and tried to figure out ways to get family history into the lives of those people everywhere around the world, just ideas. So they came up with some things that you can do in your home, that are just good, old-fashioned type, easy things to do, but really meaningful. And then after each one, it has go digital. So if you do have internet and you do have a smartphone or a computer, then you can use that also. Then you can also rate these activities and let Family Search know if you've done them. And so it's a great setup. It's so wonderful. So one of the things that we do, we can bring it up here, is the All About Me. Has anybody done that one yet? So you go to All About Me, it's one of the sections, one of the activities, and you put in your birth year. If you've signed in, it usually brings your birth year. There you can see it, All About Me.
You can find out how old she is right now.
Yeah, that's my birth year. I'm signed in, 1953. So then what you can do is find out all these fun things about that year that you were born. Every single group that we ever play this with doesn't want to stop. We do youth groups a lot, and they have so much fun with this, especially learning that, like the oldest person in the room had, how many temples there were when that person was born, or what the price of gas was, or a movie ticket, who was president of the church. We just have a lot of fun with this. So, how much do you think gas cost when I was born in 1956? Any guesses? 35 cents. 35?
We got here 35, 35 once, 35 going once. 27!
27 cents. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so who was, how many temples were there when I was born? And you can guess on this one, I think.
Just to
So
get
it'll
you
have some options. So 9, 5, 8, or 1 in 1953. 9?
8.
8.
I cheated, I knew.
Yeah. So 8 temples when I was born. So let's see what the population of the world in 1953. What do you think? 2.7 billion, 3.7, 2.5, 2.9. Any guesses? You got 2.9? 2.9, not quite. 2.7 billion people when I was born. Anyway, you can see how much fun you can have with this one. Any other ones you want to explore? Go back. Let's do one more. The NBA champion, I would have no idea.
No. First class stamp would be interesting.
First class stamp.
3 cents.
3 Yeah. So anyway, that's a lot of fun. Any more of these?
So why do we even take a minute to talk about that? Why would Family Search and the church spend so much time and energy and effort? This exercise has been taken to countries all over the world with all these games. There are 36 games on here that help youth and young adults connect with the idea of the importance of their extended family and find things that make them come alive and become real and not just a date and a name. Why is that so important? And why is it that we go beyond that and have something we call family history activities? These are all activities from Family Search. We have over 200 activities on the Family History Guide. Over 200 activities for families, individuals, youth, and children in multiple categories. And why would we do that? This effort of discovering, gathering, and connecting to make these people come alive prepares the opportunity for our families to receive the amazing blessings promised by the prophets that we received from family history. We talked to a young adult today, and he said, I just took my grandfather and my great-grandfather and went to the temple and baptized them. He said, I'm not really excited about family history, and I don't think I really do it anymore. And we started asking about his grandfather, his great-grandfather. He didn't know anything about it. He didn't understand how he connected with his family. It became, for his age group, less relevant because it didn't mean something personally to him. Nor does he said, yes, it was a spiritual experience. But when I left, it's not something how are we going to get him to feel passion? How are we going to get him to feel connected? How are we going to get this to come alive? Well, the brother and I felt like what we're to do is to make activities come alive. Here's some of the activities from the Family History Guide on the multiple different topics. But to help that with families right now, there's an extra additional wonderful tool that's added to the Family History Guide. It is called the Come Follow Me Companion. Now, many, many families now have a little extra time on Sunday. And with their extra time on Sunday, they have a chance to be home with the family. And we were even talking to one of the central managers of Family Search. And he said, I've gone through some of these activities with my 7-year-old, my 9-year-old, and my 11-year-old. The activities recommended to come follow me. And he said, they kind of get involved in one or two, but they're not that excited about it.
Well, there's not enough of them either. There's just a few.
It's just a couple of activities. It's a great study guide. It's remarkable, and people are gaining so much from it as a family. But to add to it, the promises of family history and all the rest, there's now something called the Come Follow Me Companion. This is what it looks like. Please.
It's
Yes,
two ways to
If you
get
open
to it. Yeah.
front page. Go back one. Look at the front page of the Family History Guide. See this scene right here? It has 4 different openings. This one's called the Come Follow Me Companion. You just click on it, click on the picture, and all of a sudden the Come Follow Me Companion will come up.
It's also in faith. It's also in faith at the top.
Yes, it's also under the Faith tab at the top. The Faith tab will be the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
I'm showing you.
Underneath it will be a Come Follow Me Companion. Can you see that? So once we find that, every lesson for every week is listed throughout the year.
So we'll have.
And, well, they're all listed.
Yeah.
And as you click on the week, there'll be additional wonderful family history activities connected topically with each lesson. And we're going to go through some of those to kind of show you how that works. For example, the Come Follow Me curriculum will have, here's the topic we studied, and here's what we found out from the scriptures as a family. Now, how can we relate that to our family? How can we find out how that worked with our ancestors? How can we find out how that's manifest, that principle has manifested itself in our personal family experience, right? So, did we click on lesson? Yes. Week 7, this is John 2 through 4. Now, let's tell you about this experience.
I'm back on. Tell us, Come Follow Me Companion, but how do you do there?
Okay, there's a schedule at the top.
And
Click
here.
on Come Follow Me Companion again, the picture. There you go.
Sorry, open it up.
You have to open it first and then click on the picture and it comes up.
Okay.
Then it'll be this.
Oh, no, that's great.
And then a listing of every week.
So see here, the schedule at the top has all the colored ones have the activities already done.
Here comes this. History. Okay, we're just checking.
finding
Make
it?
sure we're finding it, right? Honey, why don't you talk about this one?
Everybody there?
Almost.
Almost?
So I'll tell you this, many members of the church are very, very excited about this idea of what they can do at home. Okay?
So for every week that it's finished, it'll be colored tab with the week listed, the date, right? You all together?
You need a little help back here.
Okay, great.
I'll get it. Okay.
Great. Yeah, so you look at the weekly schedule and you can click on any week that is blue, and there will be a link to or more activities that have to do with that lesson.
Okay. On this one, oh, it's touch screen. That's another picture. All right, that's where she is. That's where she is right now. Just scroll down though.
I think everybody's with us now?
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think it's pretty easy to find once you've done it once, right? Come Follow Me Companion from the home page or under the Faith menu for Latter-day Saints. And you can click on that, and you go to the schedule, and you can look at any week, and it just has these fun activities. For example, I'm going to put that on the sample page in tennis. So John 2 to 4, you're born again, you must be born again, talks about how the Savior used objects to teach them. And you think about some of his parables and some of the ways he talks about water or grain of sand, all those kinds of things. So the way we related this to family history was to have a little activity that is kind of like a treasure hunt. So we were actually at our daughter's house with a bunch of our grandkids, and she said, let's study our Come Family Week. And so we got it out, and she goes, Mom, what is the family history activity for this week? So this was it. And in 5 minutes, everybody in that room had gone around the house and found an object that related to family history, their heritage, something that reminded them of a story. And for the next, I don't know how long, 20 minutes maybe, we sat there and shared and had everyone share why that object meant a lot to them. And suddenly, just because we had this idea in mind, we had a beautiful spiritual experience together, talking about heritage and why these stories matter, and what they meant to each one of us. So most things are pretty simple like that, but they get us doing family history and relating it to the New Testament and the life of the Savior. And so each one of these has something really fun to do.
Week 2.
We can, okay, I don't know what it is.
So try to click on week 2, January 7th to 13th.
Can you see that week?
January 7th through 13.
We'll just give you some examples now. January 7th to 13th, here's some activities that are listed. So there are videos attached for families, and I'll just to kind of get a feeling for this. This first little video here is about the idea taught in this section of the scripture, which included, sometimes we find that God's plans for our lives are quite different from the ones that we had planned, right? So we're going to watch an example of how we find those stories from our families where the life plan that we had was not exactly what Heavenly Father had in mind for us.
And what we learned. Okay.
This is using the Wonderful Memories app, and they're recording an audio story from Grandma and Grandpa. They can now put on their family tree. And most of you know from the Memories app, you just press the button to go right to your tree.
And Scott, let's tell him, honey, let's tell him about Record My Story while we're on that.
One of the games and the activities that happens to be on Family Church now is called Record My Story. And with that one, you stick on it, your computer will record whoever you're with, and records the story automatically, and then goes directly also to there. They can email it to someone or put it right on the tree. Interesting detail, and then
makes it easy.
Family Search one, okay? So, do you have stories from your family where their plans were not exactly what Heavenly Father had planned? There's something you'd love your family to know about times when it's just like, oh yeah, that didn't exactly work out the way it was planned, right? So my wife has an interesting story that definitely helped us understand how this principle that was taught by the Savior in this section made a huge difference in our family. In fact, the reason she's here is because plans changed. So why don't you tell them the Maxfield story?
Great. You want to go to it?
Sure.
So I had some very adventuresome relatives, some ancestors who I just can't wait to find out all the rest of the story. But John Maxfield was living in England, and for some reason he and some brothers, and I don't know who else, got on a ship headed for Australia. And they never made it. The ship wrecked, crashed, whatever, shipwrecked, near Australia, somewhere in between England and Australia. I would like to know if they were like hanging on to parts of the ship or, how they were rescued, but a ship came along that was a freighter ship and took them to Canada, a long way from Australia. But here, John met his wife, Sarah Elizabeth Baker, and they married, and they were raising a large family. They actually became quite wealthy. They had a horse farm, and these were show horses, and they were just having a great life. And then all of a sudden everything changed because two missionaries from Nova Scotia came down and taught them the gospel. And they knew it was true, and they left everything behind to join the saints. They left their land to be sold by an attorney. They sold off whatever they could so they had some means of traveling, and then they left with their family and some of their nieces and nephews and traveled west. Well, it turned out that attorney never did give them any money for selling that property. So all they had was what they had with them when they left. And they traveled along and got as far as Fort Supply in Wyoming. And this is near the Sweetwater crossing. And so there were some people there that ran the ferry, I'd imagine. And at this point, Sarah Elizabeth Baker became so sick that her family had to make a decision. And I can imagine how difficult it was because they had to go on. The wagon train had to go on. There's nothing there. We've seen it on Google Maps and it hasn't changed. There's just nothing there. We found that there was like a dugout kind of thing. And then this ferry that was they would use. So they decided that she would die. And so her husband, John, and the rest of the family left her there. So my great-great-grandmother didn't die. She gave birth to a baby. And this baby was her 11th child. And she gave birth in a wagon bed, and they both miraculously survived. And when she was well enough, she caught the next wagon train coming through, which happened to be traveling a 6-footer on some different route, maybe, I'm not sure. One of the questions I have, because she was at the Valley Cruise. And I think, oh, maybe my husband what that was like. So when her family came, there she was, standing there with her baby. And I'm sure they thought they would still see the ghost because they were so sure that she was not going to make it. But that reunion must have been so sweet. And because that 11th baby was born, I was there. Because that was my ancestor, Henry Admiral Maxwell. And I am so grateful to John and Elizabeth, Sarah Elizabeth Baker. I can't even, I picture this in my mind all the time when I get to meet them. I'm just trying to find the words to say thank you for your faith and your fortitude, for putting one foot in front of the other day after day after day, and making that sacrifice and showing or providing maybe your ancestors, your progenitor, your descendants, me, that kind of faith. Just another example of their faith. John was the type of person that just kept giving things away and giving things away and just taking care of everybody else. And he kept giving their grain away. And finally, Sarah Elizabeth said, honey, we can't just do that. We have our children to feed. And he said, honey, come here. And he took her out to the granary, and he opened the bin, and it was full. And she knew that he had been giving away to all the neighbors, but yet it was full
And that story on faith is just one of the many, many stories that we have in our ancestry, isn't it? Just all of those wonderful, faithful people who can inspire us just by us thinking about them and learning their stories and knowing about them. I am so, so grateful for that heritage.
So I think I'm more grateful because that was her direct grandfather, the 11th child born out there on the plain. Because of that, I got a chance to be married to her. And then if they hadn't made it, it wouldn't be like this. This next one we just love. Some of you have seen this. It's available on the Rootstake videos. But it's President Oaks talking about discovery with his family and activities you could do with them to help their ancestors come alive. This happened to be the lesson on Come Follow Me that said, what were the qualities of the Savior's disciples? And it goes through specific qualities. This is from lesson number 8, the end of February. And it goes through the qualities of the disciples and talks about them, and we have a lesson about them, and that's great. But what happens then if we can go back and say what President Oaks did? Now, if you haven't seen this is delightful. Because what he did was he put up posters that just listed qualities.
You want to watch
Wonderful
it?
qualities, and they wanted somehow for the people, his children, to get a chance to sign up on those charts. Did you want to show President?
Sure.
I'll show you a little clip of how he did this activity. The perfect connection with what that was on Come Follow Me. So they had the pictures of their ancestors covered up. They had the qualities listed on the top. They had all their grandchildren and her grandnieces and nephews go up and sign which quality they wanted to develop in their lives. So all the kids signed up for 1 or 2 or 3 charts, and they said, I really want to develop that quality more in my life. And then they just uncover and say, the quality you want is this relative, and they tell the story about that relative that had that quality. Now write to the stories and help them connect the specific qualities. It's an amazing idea, and just really helps the ancestors come alive to the point that it helps them not only learn the story, but then personalize it to say, how does their example help me to develop a greater quality in my life? So that's one of the activities that's listed here. As you can see, a lot of these activities on the Come Follow Me Companion also have a video attached that I tell you, give you an example, families can watch. I need to say to you, there are so many families that have contacted us and just saying, this is helping our Sabbath day worship so much. Because we all of a sudden can naturally connect family history into our study. And it's connected to the point that the same topic we're studying becomes alive. And when it's our family that we're discovering, and not just a principle from the scriptures, it makes it personal. It helps us connect. Let's look at the next week. We're just showing you here, for example, 4 or 5, so you can kind of get a feel for what's there. Do you have any questions? Yeah? Does it make sense? This week is
Matthew.
week number 9. Matthew 6 and 7. Come follow me. Always put priorities to the things of God. Build yourself upon a rock. That's a fun activity. There are lots of things that can be done with that, but this is one of our favorite activities we've ever done. We do it in huge groups that are like 400. We do it in family groups. We do it with families as we travel around. We visit families a lot and do family activities with them, family history activities. You want to watch just a glimpse of this?
Yeah.
This is called the Family History Fun Basket. You can put anything in the basket you want, but these clips in the basket would be, okay, going right along with the specific lesson. Actually, we use this one quite a bit. We love this because Grandma and Grandpa's are involved.
What is that? Shade. Shade. I don't know if you saw that last one activity. That's our nephew and niece and their family. Did you see him running around with that thing on his back and he's chasing people? So my great-great-grandpa is coming across the plains, right? And he sees a stream filled with fish and decides he's going to stop and fish because his mom loves fish. So he's fishing and suddenly realizes it's getting dark. And the wagon train's quite a ways away. And so he's filled his pockets full of fish and starts back toward the wagon train, and suddenly hears the howling of wolves coming in. In this true story, he took off running for the wagon train, and the wolves are catching him, of course, because he can't outrun the wolves. But as they got closer, he pulled out a fish and threw it over his shoulder, and they stopped to fight over the fish, and he ran. And then they got closer, and he pulled out a fish and threw it over his shoulder, and kept running. And he did this until his last fish went flying, and he went running into the wagon train. That's my direction. And if he hadn't made it from the wolves, I wouldn't be here. And then we wouldn't be together. So, we really look back at, we kidded about their ingenuity, but when they acted out like that, it makes it even more fun. So that leads us kind of to the next one. Here's a great thing that helps a family history story become real, especially for youngers. But I need to tell you, these activities work fantastically well with young adults.
I've been in the young adult state presidency for the last 6.5 years, and in the midst of doing that, we did so many family history activities with them, and when we made it come alive for them, suddenly they're relating to it, and it becomes present for them. So let Angel tell you about this one.
And some of these, like the family history fun basket that you just saw, and the charades and those kind of things, when you get a bunch of families together, whether they're related or not, in fact, it's such a wonderful missionary tool to get together and just play family history games. Who doesn't want to know about their families, right? And so these are just at your fingertips. In fact, on the Family History Guide activities section, there are many of the activities marked with an asterisk, and those are the ones that are no prep, like easy. You don't have to do anything. You can just do them anytime, any place. We're over at my daughter's the other day, and she said, Mom, we have 3 minutes. The kids are finishing eating, and then we're going to leave. You've got to have them right here at the table. Let's do a family history activity. So I'm like, okay. And I just went through in my mind the easy ones, and we played 20 questions about different ancestors, and they learned some things in that 3 or 4 minutes before they left that they didn't know before. So anyway, it's great to have those kinds of things at your fingertips. So anyway, maybe we'll go to the... Yeah, so with conference coming up, this is this week's lesson.
This is this week's lesson.
Right? And so the family history activities that you could do to prepare for conference have mostly to do with me finding out the family history of the General Authority and our prophet, the First Presidency. What were they like? What was it like growing up as in their families? And just to study them. And this has a lot of the links that the church has produced for you to use in preparing children and grandchildren, lots of fun activities, ways to prepare yourself for conference, and just to find out a little bit more about the lives of those you will be listening to. And then there's some games also listed here just down a little bit further that you can do that have to do with family history also. Okay, and then about Revelation also, and personal revelation. And the family history tie-in there is that we've been invited to write down those feelings that we have during conference. And what happens when we write anything down in our life? It's family history, right? It's your personal history. So those are some ideas for getting ready for conference.
For example, there was a little boy who, when he was growing up, flunked out of most of his classes in his elementary school. Became basically an orphan. His father passed away. His mother had a nervous breakdown and was hospitalized. He was passed around from one family to another and struggled with the process. Mother got somewhat better. He was raised by a single-parent mom. That was very difficult. It was very difficult for him growing up a week after that. President Allen knows. For kids to somehow see that that's what he went through when he was young, this brilliant Supreme Court justice, this brilliant university president who was flunking elementary school because of the pressure in his family, losing his dad, his mom struggling, and all the things he went through. His story, when you talk to young adults about the fact that he was a young adult in law school, he was married at the time, dropping off somebody from their ward in the top part of Chicago. And suddenly a young man came up to him and accosted him and threw a gun in his stomach and said, "Give me your money." He said, "I don't have any money on me." "Give me your watch." He said, "I'm not wearing a watch." He said, "Give me the keys to your car." He looked over and his wife is in the car and the door's locked, and he said, "No." No, I said, "The keys are inside." He said, "How do your wife open the door?" He said, "No." The young man shoved the gun in his stomach again and said, "Give me your wallet." And I already told you I don't have a wallet. He said, "Give me your watch." "Give me the keys to your car." Same thing again. He said, "Tell your wife open." "No." He said, and I suddenly thought, I'm much bigger and stronger than he is, I can definitely take that gun away. He said, just as he went to grab the gun, he said, he heard clearly, "Don't." And he saw that if he did, the gun would turn on the young man and shoot him. So then he heard the Spirit say, "Give him a lecture. You would have to know you're being told by the Spirit what to do. Hearing him tell this story, that he reached over and grabbed the young man's shoulder with his hand. You don't really want to shoot me. What are you really thinking about? Is this what you want for your life? And starts giving him a lecture. And the young man turns and runs away. Just the stories of these people and what they went through, right? And when you learn about that, President Nelson's stories are amazing. And we know a lot of them. But having him be personalized so that when they stand up there and start to speak, this is about Peter's testimony and how he received that testimony. This very week we heard President Nelson came last July to a group of the 70 that are in the area presidency and the area 70s in the Utah area. And he just said to them, do you know what it's like to be the prophet? And what do you think? Yeah. He said, well, 2 nights ago I was awake at 12:30 at night and told, get your scriptures, get your dictionary, go to your study and begin. And he said, I was directed specifically in my study till 2:30 in the morning. I felt like I probably had to go to bed. And he said, direct prompting. You're not done yet. Study more. And he said, I studied till 3:30 in the morning and then felt a peaceful feeling like I had done enough that night. Went to bed, got up at 5:30 and got busy on my busy day. He just talked about that's kind of what it's like to be the prophet. Somehow, if our youth understood that, or if we knew that that's what he'd been through, and he talked about these moments where he is directed by the Spirit so personally, right? Sister Jordan Jones was talking quietly about this experience. She was called the other temple community. And in her beautiful moments doing this, this is a fairly private story. Maybe we won't go.
Honey, let's end because it's almost time, so should we end with
Okay.
this one?
Rick, this is all yours? Anyway, amazing when they come alive and really become real. And all of a sudden these general stories, they're wonderful stories about their lives. And so many have gone through so many interesting things. And when they become personal to our families, it makes such a difference. Don't you think? Yeah. Go ahead, please.
You probably remember when Elder Redland, 2 conferences ago in April, talked about this family history story. And he talked about how the Pratt brothers had a falling out, and they hadn't spoken to each other. And one would try to make up, and the other one wouldn't listen, and it just went on and on. And do you remember what he said was the reason that they were able to mend their rift? He said that they discovered that someone in the family had written a family history about part of their family. And it was that solidified their commitment to repent and to get back together and love each other again. It was family history, Elder Redland said, that made all that difference. And then he talks about how there are many, many ways that family history blesses our lives. And I love to read these over because there is not one promise that Elder Redland talks about that I don't need, that we don't need in our family. And it is worth every little time that we go on family church and look for things, every time we do a family activity, every time we read a story to our grandchildren, all those kinds of things that we do to keep family history alive and keep it going. The angels are keeping track, and they're cheering us on. And those angels are our ancestors. And they're the ones that care. They're the ones that will help these promises be fulfilled in our lives. So these are listed here, and the name of the talk is Family History and Temple Work, Sealing and Healing by Elder Redland. And it's our prayer, and we thank you for being here. But it's our prayer, as it is yours, that family history will touch every single member of our family. And bring the Spirit of the Lord there and help them, help all these kids and grandkids that we worry about so much and that we love so much, feel that connection to their past and know that as they reach out and do work for those that have gone on before, that they care about their stories and learn them, that opens the door for those
that have gone on should be a part of our lives and their lives. And that's what we hope for, right? And we leave this, do you want to take it? We leave this in the name of Jesus Christ.
And just quickly, what's the difference between the Malachi version of the story about Elijah and the Dr. McCombs version? The Malachi version says, turn the hearts of the children to the fathers and the fathers to the children, right? Does the Dr. McCombs reference say that? No, it doesn't. It says, it will come in our day to turn the hearts of the children to the promises made to the fathers. It never talks about the fathers. It talks about our hearts being turned to the promises that were made to them. The fact that it emphasizes our role is to get our hearts changed, and that we will turn toward promises that have been made to them. So I just conclude with what would those promises be? Obviously, we have the opportunity to do their work, to help them with that. We know that part. But if you read through the Book of Mormon, Nephi said, I just want my testimony to go to my children. Jacob said, I just want my witness to be known. Enos said, please, Heavenly Father, preserve my record so my testimony can go on. What promise did he make to them and our ancestors? To sacrifice their lives for the gospel. I just want my testimony and my life experience to go to my children and grandchildren. That second part of the promise, not just that we would do their work, but that they could bless us. They could reach out to us and bless our lives and fill us with the beautiful blessings of the gospel they felt in their lives. It comes about as we come to know them, understand their legacy, and make it part of our lives. We'll be back in the name of Jesus Christ. Thanks so much for coming. Good to be together.
Thank you so much. So welcome. Any questions?
Yeah, let's talk about individual things. Get rid of that little thing. This is David Castleton. Most of you know David Castleton. But the great privilege in my life is he's my brother-in-law. That's such a privilege. And he sees all the cousins up here and says, yeah, I know all of them. So fun. So fun. Does that make sense? And the reason we have the activities on there is to do this next step. So that second part of the getting them to bless our lives to their example. And when they come alive, wow. So, that makes sense. And I think the magic of it is having it linked up with something we're doing. That we would come follow me companion makes it say, okay, and some people say, well, I know I'm supposed to come follow me now, and then I'm supposed to do family history, and then I'm supposed to, well, why don't we just do it together? What if we just say, you're doing come follow me, let's just add a family history activity to the very lesson we're having, and we can do it all together. And make them come alive, and make it be real. And that part simplifies the process of including both aspects of your life. And I will just say this now off record. Guess who wrote the entire Come Follow Me Companion? That woman right there. She's done the entire...
I'm writing it, trying to stay ahead of the game.
And all of the aqua colors are finished. We're up through May and some of the others in June, and she spends 60 hours a week sitting at the computer, researching ways to make family history linking to Come Follow Me. And before we're done, we'll be ahead. But I'm just so grateful to watch you do that. And I try to help the best I can with either.
He does. He makes me so.
But it's miraculous, the effort that's gone into this, and the goodness to have those activities. You'll see that they really correlate really well with the collective, which is a wonderful tool. There are lots of things online right now because as soon as the church advertises something or announces something, a huge plethora of, and you can type on Come Follow Me and there'll be 100 different sites that say, here's a handout you can run off, here's something you can do. But as far as I know, there's only one that says, I'm going to take family history and make that a part of this experience. This is the site that allows us to take this wonderful gift that we love and make it part of what we're doing. So, I think it's a really an extra tool that's unique in all the kinds of things that are out there. And for those of us who love family history and know the promises of family history, we want to get it into everything we do, right? We have a minute before, please.
Sorry about that. I've been searching since I was 20.